Welcome, everyone, to a Delco Nerd Network Rewind review, where we sit down and talk about some of our favorite film franchises of the past. On this season, we're talking a little Fantastic Four, the three theatrical releases so far, starting with Fantastic Four 2005. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Fantastic himself, Anthony the Gooch Ragucci. How are you, Gooch?
Fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, we're here to talk a little Fantastic Four. Initially released July 8th of 2005, Gooch, with a production budget.
We're very close to 20 years ago.
I was literally going to say, like, almost 20 years to the dot. I didn't realize that. That's kind of cool that the new one's coming out 20 years later. Interesting enough.
Right.
They really missed the trick, though, with the four, like 2004 and 2024.
Yeah, fucked up.
I mean, that was the original date, I think, for First Steps. It was 2024, but they pushed it back. Anywho, with a production budget of... Actually, Gooch, I'm curious. What do you think?
Yeah, let me guess.
Yeah.
110 million.
Not terribly far off. 87.5 million.
Interesting. I thought going sub 100 mil was going to be a low ball.
I agree with you, too, because there's a lot of real sets in this. And, like, a lot of real places.
And not a lot of action. We'll get to that.
No, there really isn't. Except for, like, a few key scenes and, like, a terrible scene that the Fantastic Four starts. No. So, with an opening weekend of 56 million.
Wow.
And a worldwide box office of $333 million. So this was a pretty good success.
Absolutely. Pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good.
Very good. Even distribution, like, throughout, domestic and international box office. I think the international box office was a little bit higher, actually, but it was pretty evenly split. So I'll hit you with a little description here. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Directed by Tim Story, of course. Written by Mark Frost and Michael France. Hit you with a description here, Gooch. A group of astronauts gain superpowers after a cosmic radiation exposure and must use them to oppose the plans of their enemy, Dr. Victor Von Doom.
Change astronauts to scientists. And I think...
Is Doom a doctor in this?
It's a good question.
Actually, he
could be.
He did say when we were at IT and you or MIT and you put me down, so maybe he did get his doctorate.
Right,
there.
the Dr. Reed Richards, Dr. Susan, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still kind of confused where Ben Grimm fits into that, but
he's a pilot apparently. I don't know, or something like that.
I'm like, okay. Yeah.
So let's get right into it, Gooch. The review here. I'll start off.
Okay.
I remember more of this movie than I realized.
Okay.
For a movie, especially from 2005. I think overall it's a relatively okay attempt at what you can do for this time, especially. They changed certain things that I'm like kind of like, I don't get why they do it every time. They even do it with Fantastic.
Dr. Doom?
Dr. Doom specifically.
Yeah,
I think he's the weakest part for me.
He's the big red flag in the movie.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I did have fun with it. I'm glad we were like, went back to it. It's funny seeing this guy. What's his name? Ian Gruffin or something like that.
Who? Dr. Doom?
Reed Richards.
I don't know.
It is funny. Like, he just disappeared.
He's a Spanish actor.
He is. Yeah.
You know what? I'll say this. Besides,
Dr. Doom, Australian.
He disappeared. He's not in anything else. Yeah. I looked up. I'm like, who is this guy? Not much anything else. Reed Richards actor, also not really in anything else. Jessica Alba also did these movies and kind of, I wouldn't say fell off. I think she chose to step away from acting.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you're right.
She didn't really fall off. She was just like, I'm just going to do, like, I was looking at her IMDb before we started recording here, and it's just like a few things a year, very small projects. Like, she was like a big deal because of these films.
No, absolutely.
And kind of just was like, I'm see ya.
Well, and I think actually I was reading up before this, like she was kind of a big deal before them, like with especially the younger kid demographics. I forget what, like she was in like some shows and like big things back in the day, and they were like, let's bring her in for this. And also, I'll just ruin this fun fact now, Gooch. That scene when she strips down on the bridge, that was added after she was cast.
Wait, what do you mean?
The scene where she has to strip down to get, because she's hot. So
yeah, I mean, there's a few scenes about her, dude. When she walks in with the suit, it's like, whoa.
This is a pretty horny movie. I feel like relatively so for especially a superhero film.
Yeah,
a lot of horny moments. But what did you think overall, Gooch? I don't know. I want to hear what you think.
I'm gonna give my Lou Kenny review scale rating off the bat.
Yeah,
mid-tier movie.
Okay.
I think this movie is pretty solid for the most part.
Okay.
I actually really enjoy what it was doing. I think the movie is obviously, it's a drama. It's not really an action film.
It's like a melodrama
by any
almost.
stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But I think they capture this this essence of the Fantastic Four and the family aspect of it very well. With they all kind of have different relationships other, and it's complicated, just how any family sort of is. And that's what the movie is about, like the complex relationships and the good, the bad, the ugly of it. And I think it like succeeds because you get in the first few scenes, we're establishing relationships between Reed and Sue, and Doom, Sue, and Reed, and Ben and Reed, and Ben and and Doom, and it's not just like, it's very complex.
I think they do. You're right. They do a relatively large amount of heavy lifting story wise in that first couple scenes.
It works because they are telling us about these things, not really showing us it. We don't get a scene when they're in MIT to sort of establish. And they don't even really spend a lot of time doing that. We quickly get to the incident in space within like 20 minutes, not even. Probably like 10 to 15 minutes.
I think the movies are only like an hour 45 too, or something around there.
It's like, I think it's like 2:05.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's probably more like 150 with 10 minutes of credits.
Right.
Yeah. It moves pretty brisk. It drags in some spots, and it kind of meanders a little bit, but like, again, I feel like I understand what they're trying to do, and especially with like Johnny being like the key example of that. Like, he's the one that's sort of like calling attention to them, and they don't really have identities, like they're immediately outed, and it's like they're all kind of walking this line of being like celebrities very differently, and they're not really together on like how they should do it. Johnny's acting out, Reed, Sue, and Ben are kind of like on the outside. Ben's dealing with his problems. Like, there's a lot going on. And
no, there is.
And it doesn't really, it's not like too complicated. It's very easy to kind of understand the themes that are being presented. But again, it's a superhero film. You kind of expect the action, and there is almost none here.
And like I said before, the first action scene is completely and utterly caused by the Fantastic Four themselves. And they save everyone, and they're like, Fantastic Four, they're the heroes. But I mean, overall, I think I got to give you credit there, Gooch. I didn't think about it that way. It kind of did. Excuse me. No, you're good, man. No worries. Wrong pipe.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
I lowered my mic.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries, dude. I do think that they nailed a lot of the familial and just, character aspects of the Fantastic Four, for especially what you can do at the time. Even the suits themselves look relatively good. Yeah, for what they could do at the time, I would have been surprised. Or I wouldn't have been surprised if they did something super over-designed and just kind of silly looking. And while these still kind of look silly looking, they look...
I don't really think they look silly looking.
I think they look appropriately silly looking to me. Like, the second suit, spandex, it's a little bit of velvet almost. It looks great. They all look great. I think most of the casting works overall with me. And I think Ian Gruffin as... I'm fucking his last name up. I think him as Reed is maybe the weakest one for me, just because of how, like, I don't know. He is, then they say it earlier in the movie, they're like, he's the dumbest smart guy, and he's like, I can't understand all this love and kisses, man. I'm all science and logic, Gooch. I don't know. They kind of overplay that to a degree, but at the same time, I think it works. And this is very much akin to, I don't know, the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans in a way, and just, I feel like how it's presented,
very much feels like that. Yeah.
They're ripping it as directly from the comics as you can, but they still want to make it somewhat realistic. I think the shining star of the movie for me is Michael Chiklis's Ben Grimm, and just as the Thing, and what he goes through, and I think there is a bit of contrivances near the end with how Dr. Doom kind of tricks him into fighting Reed. I don't think that totally jives with me, but I did like this whole journey he's going on of accepting who he is as a Thing, and being called a freak, and just dealing with, I think I brought this up on other podcasts just as a joke, but like the way his wife leaves him. She comes to the bridge publicly to put her ring down and leave it.
Laurie Holden, Andrea from The Walking Dead.
And I gotta say, that scene where he tries to go pick it up was genuinely sad. And then Reed walks up and puts it in his hand.
It's kind of funny, I think, out of context, but it is like his whole arc is very sad.
Yeah, and I gotta say, for being a 2005 film and doing that suit practically, I think it looks relatively fine.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a bit goofy, I guess.
Yeah,
but like I think it works.
I think it does too. And if they tried to do that CGI at the time, I just don't know how well that worked.
And I think that's why they did it practically.
No, and also
it's probably going to be really expensive when we have it on screen all the time. Human Torch is going to be enough expense as it is when he does light up,
and he looks really good. I gotta say, like, I feel
Human
like I'm
Torch?
surprised. Yeah, I think for 2005 CGI, he looks great, especially that flying scene looks pretty great.
Speaking of Human Torch,
Yeah.
I think we really need to look at that character because we've talked about this before. I think in the Caped Question episode with Joe Quinn and his quotes. I think Chris Evans is great in this role.
Yeah.
You know, like it's really interesting how Chris Evans was kind of this comedian himbo kind of actor.
Asshole.
And then he, you know, that's actually hilarious.
Exactly.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Like that's like my favorite line.
It's so good.
He's great in a lot of those earlier roles before he was very famous. Did Captain America, kind of changed the trajectory of his career, but has recently within like Knives Out and Gray Man has kind of gone back to like being, I would say, a bit more comedic in tone, and a bit more villainous.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it really works. Again, I think he really captures like who Johnny Storm is supposed to be, and he's kind of like a blowhard. He's he's a bit of an idiot. He's a womanizer. You know. Oh, by the way, that's Maria Menounos.
Yeah,
the nurse.
Yeah. He acts before he thinks. He's just like, I do like that scene when he's like, listen, there's fucking sick Nar out there. We're gonna go hit it. You want to come with me? And she's like, I guess. It is so 2000s. It's so great.
But like, that's Johnny Storm. And like in the beginning, at least,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
like, I'm not gonna act like I'm an expert on the comics. I don't think, you know, when I think of the Fantastic Four, I think of this movie. I think of these actors. I think of Jessica Alba. You know, Chicklets, Evans,
Ian,
actor we don't know.
Yes,
get his name.
Yeah, I am. It's like Gruffend, but it's like a weird pronunciation.
Like these are who I think of. These were our first exposure to the Fantastic Four, and like I was saying, Superman. Like I don't think the Fantastic Four are as well known as you think. You think you know them, but like when you look at the comics, it's like I couldn't like they're like I think when we talk about Spider-Man, we can easily name a few Spider-Man comics that are like really integral to the character.
Sure.
Or even Captain America.
Yeah.
Or even Iron Man. But Fantastic Four, like I actually struggle to tell you one of their original comic runs that like stands out. Like we know a lot of their villains. We know Galactus, we know Doom, obviously. But yeah, like it like they're like knownly unknown.
There's two sides to the coin because I agree. And I also think it's not true in the fact of like I think within the comics realm they are one of the top tier, characters who have had insane set of characters who have all of these stories that maybe we're not as familiar with, and I think that's just partly because they haven't had as successful as a film franchise and haven't been kicked into the same.
And their modernity is like their modern comics. I think a lot of their stuff is they're popular back in the day, and they still are.
For sure.
They've maintained that, but like again, like we're not talking about some like 05 run of the Fantastic Four that's like very well known.
Well, and I think it's even more closer to the contemporary time where they stopped printing them for a while when they didn't own them, when Marvel didn't own them. So, and you could really feel that Marvel wasn't endorsing them as much because they didn't see as much profitability within all of like the mediums. But now I feel like you might see more of a renaissance with those stories. And, again, we're not the deep diviest comic book fans here. We do our light comic reading. So I'm sure there are some major comic book fiends out there who are like, Fantastic Four, here are 80 insanely good runs from them that we could go through and are probably fantastic. But you're right, Gooch. I think it's interesting to see what even just a movie franchise can do for these characters. Because I think pre-Captain America the movie, I couldn't really tell you any major Captain America storylines. Like I feel like that's really popularized those characters to a new degree that just they didn't have before, especially. But maybe Fantastic Four did in the comics. But yeah, I think Chickless is my favorite part for sure. I think you're right about Johnny though too.
Yeah,
his
I wanted to go
characterization's
back
great.
to that. Yeah, we're gonna have to see and look really deep with how he's portrayed in the new movie because that's where they seem to be taking a different direction with Johnny.
Yeah, and I'd love to pull up that quote again. I'm not going to do it this second about what Feige and even Joe Quinn were saying. I'm sure there's a different way. They're talking, I'm sure, more about the womanizing type stuff, which, especially with contemporary times, it's just the way it's going to go. I think he'll probably still be like a hard-headed kind of a-hole, maybe charging ahead, thinking before acting, or acting before thinking.
And going to Chicklets and the Thing. He's very much treated as like how the society would treat a mutant. He's a freak, Nobody likes him. But think about it in what we've seen of the new Fantastic Four, First Steps. The Thing, everyone loves the Thing.
I love that. Yeah.
I think we're looking at a 1970s that is not actually supposed to be real.
Yeah, it's an alternate universe.
Yeah. This wouldn't have happened in our 1970. The Thing probably would be treated like a freak.
Well, and
if it was supposed to be real.
I don't know if the for First Steps is. I think it's supposed to be in the current year, but it's an alternate history where it's like a retro futuristic history. So I think it's still supposed to be like 2024 when they're coming about. But no, and I think that's a great way to differentiate yourself.
And also that thinking towards Johnny Storm a little bit.
Absolutely. And, I think that's another very big, like, 2000s storyline idea. I think now with contemporary stories, again, people are going to find these things a bit more cooler than, like, oh, freak rock man, get away from me. Maybe at first, but I think it would progress into something like people would have, like, Instagrams and fucking social media accounts and, like, be making a ton of money off their superpowers. And it would be kind of like The Boys, almost, to a degree. But, I digress. I think Chiklis is great. He apparently really wanted this role. I'll get more into it in the fun facts. And
what I thought about that suit.
Yeah, so, you'd be surprised, actually, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So Doom is the weakest part for me. He's just a mustache twirling villain. He comes in at the beginning and is just an asshole. It feels like almost to be an asshole. Like he just doesn't like Reed because he's the smart guy. And
they were rivals in school. It kind of now they're rivals with Sue. And, like, I think that part's interesting, how, like, like, Sue is dating Doom, but, like, isn't. And then, like, the relationship, like, he's ready to propose on the space station. But then, like, after that, the relationship seems really casual.
And she's like, I'm not even with Doom, Reed. It's like, what? You aren't? Like, he seems to think that. And then, Doom just wants her because he's like, that I did kind of like that moment again, very mustache twirly, but with his like his minion, and he's like, "Why Sue, sir? You could have any other woman in the world." And he's like, "That's right, Jives, because I could have any other woman." And it's literally because he hates Reed so much.
Is?
Who is it?
Who's the guy who played Batman in the Caped Crusader?
Oh, I don't know. That's him?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's who that is.
He's a relatively more unknown actor. Linklater, I think you're right.
Something like that.
Hamish Linklater, I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that's who that is.
He's great in that. That's actually awesome.
Yeah. Doom is like, again, we'll talk about this in Fan 4 Stick, but like, why can't we just do Doom normally? Like I mean, we're not even gonna get Doom in First Steps that we know of.
Yeah.
But like, it always seems to like they never actually do Doom the way he actually is in the comics.
Yeah,
like they're not even coming close. Like.
Yeah, because in the comics,
Doom gets his skin turns to metal. I do like the thing with his face and his obsession with his look, because there are comic books where he fucking like plasters the mask to his face and his face is fine and he fucks it up himself. And then there are, I think, comics where his face is fucked up.
Right, where he like gets a scar or something and he wears the mask to cover it.
Right, but it's like just a little scar and he's like, I'm a freak.
Yeah.
Puts it on, but then he's like, no, I'm gonna like solder it to my face.
Right.
Or then his face is like actually totally fucked up. Like, I think there's just depending on the storyline, but yeah. And I like that about Doom, how like that scar, like he's just like,
keeps filling with
I'm going to be on Larry King, get this side of my face. And then it kind of progressively gets worse, but it looks kind of cool.
And then the guy's like, that's actually testing well with the focus groups. It humanizes you. And then he's like, that's a good thing. Like, he is, again, just so mustache twirly in a 2000s way. And again, I keep saying this, I feel like on some of these reviews, but it is a symptom of the 2000s where they were like, wait, he's like magic and he's from a fake company or country and he has like a scar on his face.
Yeah,
and
the mention of Latveria is even interesting. Decided to do that.
I think they were like, no, just make it like he gets hit with a cosmic storm too and he has like electric powers. All right, that sounds fine. Yeah.
Right.
His look, like by the end, I wish
it's okay.
His thing was more green.
The mask
looks great.
The costume is where I'm iffy about.
I think if
we
punch
see it
up
so little.
I was gonna say, and it's in the dark. I think if you light it up a bit better, punch up the green, it probably looks great. There is one moment when he's in that full like metal like getup where he is on set in like a full latex metal suit. It looks incredibly uncomfortable. But yeah, he's the weakest element for sure. He's just kind of like maniacally doing his stuff in the back. He just starts losing his company because he fucked up with this investment with Reed.
Kind of feels like very Oscorp Norman.
That's what I mean, like Super Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And even just the way the world kind of reacts, it feels like a comic book ripped straight from the page in certain ways. I don't know. Like if you know, in Spider-Man, when you look back at the background actors and they're all just like they almost aren't even doing anything, and it's hilarious every time. It feels like that to me, but not in a bad way. That's just how kind of movies were made at this time, especially when you were even translating, superhero stuff. But I don't know. Anything else on the review side?
I mean, we didn't really talk about Sue too much.
Oh, that's actually a good point.
She does. I like her role. I like Jessica Alba as Sue Storm. But like ultimately, like she doesn't do a whole bunch. She's kind of, I mean,
again,
she's kind of like assistant to whatever Reed is doing, and then I mean, honestly, I think she's the more interesting aspect of the relationship.
Why does she want to be with him though? Like, I guess like there's stuff like
the comics, man.
And that's it. That's the thing I guess I'm pointing to too. It's just like, it's just because they want to be together. All right, get over it. And I do think their chemistry works most of the time, but again, the stuff with Reed where he's just like, the scene when she walks out and it looks like he's like gawking at her, and he's like, "What kind of material is this?" And she's just like, "Oh, Reed, look at me." I don't know. It's
Right.
just,
Like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's like a good mediator. Like her scene, like she doesn't have a lot of scenes with Johnny, but I think when they do interact, like it feels like a brother sister kind of relationship. Like that's really not on full effect here. Like I don't really feel like they really harp on it at all.
I agree.
Even to a point where it's just like a minor detail of things. But I think like she gets in between Reed and Ben and Johnny and Ben, and I think Johnny and Ben's relationship is great. Like, Johnny pesters Ben a shit ton. But,
of course.
Like, again, there's this like characterization where he kind of cares under all that.
Even the moment like when he sees Ben for the first time, he's like, "Oh fuck!" Like you can like there's care in it. Of course, he then goes on to make fun of him. But yeah, I totally agree. I think his characterization is well done.
It's funny talking about this. There really isn't a ton to talk about. Like
the story is almost non-existent. It really is just
it's about them trying to cure themselves and like figure out what's going on.
Exactly. That's what I feel like almost the villain part of it is like is
secondary
extra and secondary.
Even though we've talked about it a lot.
We need to have this big blow up at the end, this big fight where they all use their powers together and destroy Doom. And it's like, yeah, that's great. And I do love the moment at the beginning of the movie where they're like, "Johnny, you can't burn that hot. You're going to burn as hot as the sun and light the atmosphere on fire." And then later in the movie, Reed is like, "Actually, Johnny, light as fucking hot as the sun. We're going to fucking die. Kill him." Like, you're not going to maybe light the fucking atmosphere on fire? I don't know.
How did you feel about the stretch CGI? Like, I think the door scene is really where we see it, like, probably too long and you get to look at it too much and, like, it looks a bit dated, but...
I mean, for 2005... I think it's fine, actually.
Yeah, I think that where he like holds Ben back, like that looked great.
I was gonna say that was, I think, an exemplary scene of like, yeah, they could do this, and it looked very, very good, especially for 2005.
And even Sue's powers, like like I think the force fields look good. The invisibility looks good. I mean, I think it's kind of hard. Like, I'm curious how they do it in the comics, and how like it's. I feel like it's hard to do invisibility without like making like the naked joke. I feel like that was almost like. They probably had a lot of difficulty, like, trying to do that seriously and like, overlooking Jessica Alba as, like, a person.
No, they just
as, like, a sexy person.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just would never happen now. That's just of the time.
I mean, we're gonna see, see how they handle it with Vanessa Kirby.
I mean, I'm sure, like, she's just gonna turn invisible. Like I will bet you money there's gonna be no, like,
maybe I'm having issues detaching from that because my first exposure to this was that.
Of course, yeah, and that's probably part of it. But
go ahead.
No. I just was gonna say I think they saw a really hot girl playing
right
Sue Storm and we're like, oh, we can write this in, and that was just so normal for that decade of filmmaking.
That type of humor and writing.
Even probably in the comics. I'm sure you could find that joke in the comics.
Yeah, like it's gotta be. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, they had to have pulled that from somewhere. It seems like impossible that all these years they never kind of made light of that. What did you think about the writing in the beginning? I'm curious if you even noticed it. You haven't brought it up.
So that's actually
fantastic. heavy for Ben, talking about him being heavy, and like they're kind of relating.
You
their
always
powers
stretch yourself, Reed. Yeah,
right.
It was
and
a
I was
little...
just like, I didn't think it was bad, but I'm like, wow, this is really on the
no,
nose.
it's incredibly on the nose. I'm
Yeah,
glad you brought it back.
but like it's not. It like doesn't not work.
It kind of
Like it wasn't. It was corny and like
That's the same Raimi. That's the Sam Raimi like Spider-Man stuff to me. Like
You're
the
a
corny
webhead.
on the
Yeah.
corny on the nose dialogue. That's
like a spider.
You stretch yourself, Reed. Why are you always are so invisible, Sue? What's going on? Yeah. Johnny, you're such a hothead. Like it's all, yeah. They definitely
that line I think was on the nose, but like everything else, I'm like, I don't think if you were paying attention, you may not have caught it.
For sure. And, I do think the discovering their powers moment, I was surprised at how quickly it goes. Like, it's like 1 second, no one has their powers, and another second.
I mean, they're in that facility and they're kind of like, nothing's manifesting, and then it kind of all.
And I don't mean that as
manifests.
like a bad thing either.
Okay.
It's more just like, I'm surprised we didn't see more of that. Like that kind of transition, and then like, I feel like a trope of the time. They're going to test out
with Reed.
Let's test out our powers. What can you do? And they kind of do that with Johnny here and there, but I would have expected a bit more of it. And I actually like the fake out. I remembered it, but I think at the time it got me with Ben when he wakes up in the hospital.
And
Johnny is like, yeah, we did everything we can, and he still looks normal. It was a good fake out. I thought it was.
I like the scene where like Johnny puts the Fantastic. Well, actually, it's interesting to say. Did Johnny put the Fantastic Four logo on the suits, or did Reed?
It's Reed did.
He has it in. He's like, yeah. I was like, what
did he do to his suit? Yeah, I think Reed did that
it.
to both of them, and then he was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
it was good.
I like that scene. There was another scene it was going to point out, trying to think.
And I will say about Johnny's character, I appreciate it does feel like he grows by the end. Almost everyone mostly grows. And even Reed is like, let's just get married. I thought about everything for so long, but I'm not going to think about it.
Alicia Masters, the blind
girl
with Ben.
yeah.
She's like his comic book
love interest, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know she was blind at first. And I was like, oh.
I think that's like kind of the big
Kerry
point.
Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else is she in again? I know she's definitely notable.
Like what Kerry Washington is in, I could not tell you.
But she's recognizable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And like even that kind of goes quickly, which is interesting. And then they're married. I know they're married in the next movie. The last scene. When Doctor Doom is fucking Ark of the Covenant,
just like, shipped to Latveria.
I'm like, what is going? Like, what are they doing?
They're sending back to his country. Yeah, like it is confusing. It's
like,
such sequel bait.
But doesn't it feel like the Raiders of the Lost Ark? When
it absolutely does.
Like that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
And then you see his eyes go like zzz, like you're like, oh, little sequel bait.
Right.
Need it.
Is he in the sequel?
Yeah. Remember like Silver Surfer?
No.
All right.
Don't. Yeah. I was like, I did.
Again, I remember these movies like much better than I would have thought I did, which is funny.
And I mean, and then we're going to watch Rise of the Silver Surfer next, and then Fan Four Stick. I think you said that, but
yeah.
I think this is the first time we've ever reviewed Marvel movies on Rewind Review. We've done plenty of DC movies. We started with Batman.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
I
think this is it. This is the first time because I was thinking about it and I was like, oh yeah, I don't think we've never done the Rewind Review with Marvel movies. I feel like we've always been waiting. Like there's the Blade movies to do, obviously the Spider-Man movies. That's kind of like that
would be I think when the next one comes out for sure.
Yeah,
or
maybe.
Along those. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Along those lines.
There's like 7.
Well, and I feel like for those we'd probably like optimally. I'd love to do just the Raimi ones just to kind of get those going. But I digress. That's for another time.
Real quick, are your keys in your pocket?
They are.
Okay, no, I keep hearing the jingling, and I'm like,
forgetting.
What is that?
Because I keep forgetting.
No, you're good. You're good. I just kept hearing it,
and I don't want it to pick up on this.
Is that Gino's ghost walking around the house?
It's very light too.
Yeah. You're good.
Anything else though?
That's
I'm trying to think. I think that is it. We mostly covered everything.
What's your rating for this?
I'd say low tier movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just kind of bored for most of it, and it's definitely.
It's just kind of meanders.
It's a drama. It's like an interpersonal drama. I think there's one scene that exemplifies it where like they're trapped inside the house and it's like a montage of them just fucking with each other and like random shenanigans.
When I was choking, you were saying you were giving me a compliment. I don't think was that what you were talking about, the fact that I pointed out it was like a drama.
No, I think it was just more of how they did manage to squeeze what the Fantastic Four is in a very consumable and understandable
Yeah,
way
like they
in
had
the first 20
orange and
minutes.
They squeeze the orange.
And
in
I
the
feel
glass,
like
yeah.
it's an abrupt beginning. You just start and you're in front of like the Doom headquarters and they're like, we're doing it. And then, like you said, 20 minutes we're in. And I'm like, oh, okay. But that works surprisingly well for me. And Jessica Alba in the first scene, I gotta admit, felt very robotic to me. Like that first time she talks to Reed, I was like, what's happening here?
Really?
But then she
Okay.
was totally fine throughout the rest of the movie. And I was like, oh, that was weird. I don't know if it was a bad take or whatever. But no, I agree.
The scene in space, and I noticed the designs of everything like very futuristic.
Well, and even
the ship kind of looked also futuristic, but I was just kind of taking note of the design of the tech.
no, it looks great. And there's even the pod that they use on Ben. Kind of looks like the thing from The Fly, like the pod that he uses in that movie, which I thought was an interesting, like, inspiration. It almost looked alien kind of inspired. I liked it. I did,
Okay.
and I thought the CG and everything looks pretty great. They had artificial gravity in 2005. I love it on a big space station. So it is so fantastical. I love it. It's weird how they were willing to learn or lean into the sci-fi stuff, I feel like, so heavily in this time period. But if you wanted to add in, like, actually it's like mystical rays that hit him or something, it's like, no, that's magic. Doom can't, like, cast spells. Keep that out of this. Let's keep it sciencey. I don't know.
And they do that with Fan Four Stick.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And, I remember really liking, like, the first half of Fan Four Stick, and funnily enough, when they get their powers, it gets bad. But I'm excited to get back to it.
I remember that movie, but at the same time, I don't. Like, I remember, like, the whole, like, spec op thing that happens. It's such an interesting thing because, like, the cast of that movie are all... I mean, maybe besides... I don't even know who plays Ben Grimm in that.
I can't remember his name.
but
But
like-
lovable Ben Grimm has, like, 120 confirmed kills in that movie. It's great.
But, like, not Rooney... It's not Rooney Mara. It's her sister. What the fuck's her name? Look it up. It's not. Look up Rooney Mara's sister. You'll find it. But you have fucking, Delco branded Miles Teller
That's
from
true.
Downingtown, PA. Then you have Michael B. Jordan. And, to both of them.
Oh, it's on the side. Yeah, Kate Mara.
Kate Mara. Yeah, I mean.
And
I
Jamie
think
Bell played Ben Grimm.
Kate Mara, I feel like, is a relatively well-known actor. I've seen her in a lot of things. Since then, but like those three huge actors who are in like some of their probably first bigger roles, especially Miles Teller, especially
That's when he
Michael
was
B.
like
Jordan.
taking off a little bit. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Anyway,
Let's get to the fun facts, Gooch. Not a
you
ton
have
here.
4 fun facts.
I have. I should have done that. I have 5. Well, now I have actually.
You did do one.
I did 1, so now we have 5. I had 6. So Michael Chiklis was a big fan of the Thing since childhood. He fought personally to create the Things look practically without any CGI, and ended up wearing a 60-pound latex suit and makeup for the role, which took about 3 hours to get into every day. So the 3 hours actually isn't that bad, and they had like the cool suit at the time, so they pump cool air into it in between sets.
I like when he goes to the bar, the Alicia Masters scene, and like, hey, this is Bronx Own, like. Dude, that scene is really sad. Like, when he's just like, he's really like down on his luck, like lowest,
trudging in,
probably
yeah.
the lowest point of his life.
Absolutely.
And he's just like, he tries to sit down, can't even do that.
Gooch, what does
and
his
goes,
downstairs mix-up look like? So,
That's not funny.
yeah.
And he's like feels sorry, like he feels like sorry for himself.
No,
And it's not funny.
no, it's not.
Like I can't sit.
I can't do anything. Yeah,
he can't eat normal.
He can't get on an elevator. Like
you know what's probably going to be a shame. I don't think we're going to see the struggle of the Thing in First Steps.
See, I actually don't think that's true because I feel like there's that one scene in the trailer where he's kind of looking at like an old picture of himself like before he turns, and you can tell it's pretty long. I think that is going to be a struggle of this, like where everyone's still loving him, and I'm sure that's going to help. But he's still going to be like, man, I'm a rock person.
Yeah,
I have a. He's never
a
going to
rock
say this, but
cock.
I have a rock cock. Yeah, so like, I can't do anything with it. So that's the main thing. I mean, who knows? It probably gets hard, or is it hard all the time? Anyways, Hugh Jackman was initially offered the role of Reed Richards, but turned it down. There's actually, Gooch, a deleted scene when he's talking to Sue, where he's like, "What do you want me to look like this?" And then he morphs his face into Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
What?
You gotta look it up. It's insane. It looks so bad too.
Should I look it up like right now?
If you want to, you can. Yeah, well, I'll go through. It's truly wild. Just look up like Fantastic Four 2005 Hugh Jackman
Fantastic
scene or something.
For Hugh Jackman.
It's insane.
Oh my god.
Can you see it? They tried to make a full human face in CG in 2005, and it's as good as you think.
But why do that? Because X-Men?
I think so, but also I think he was just a handsome man at the time. I think it was a reference
he's
to
a handsome man still.
Exactly, absolutely. So I think it was just kind of supposed to be a joke, but then they didn't end up putting it in.
Okay, it's during.
It's like when they're talking and she's like, "Why? I just want you to love me, Reed."
I'm watching it without sound.
Yeah,
he kind of.
And he changes his face. It's so.
Oh my god.
There's also a Mr. Fantastic dick joke in this. I forgot.
There is.
I heard he can stretch any part of his body.
His human anatomy.
Yeah, but whoa there. So Peyton Reed. Oh no, wait. Sorry. There was actually a few other people in the ring for Reed Gooch. One of them was none other than Brendan Fraser, as well as George Clooney. They were like top contenders at the time.
George Clooney, I could see. Brendan Fraser, not old enough, probably.
You don't think so? I think I guess how old would he have been at the time? Probably like 25,
I assume
30.
they're all kind of in their 30s.
Sure. That's a good point. Anywho, Peyton Reed of Ant-Man fame, Gooch, pitched a Fantastic Four film
like the
to
director?
Fox. Yeah.
Okay.
Pitched a Fantastic Four film to Fox back in 2003, describing it as a hard day's night with superheroes. The proposed cast, I'll explain in a sec. The proposed cast was Alexis Denioff as Reed Richards, Charlize Theron as Sue Storm, Paul Walker as Johnny Storm, and John C. Reilly as Ben Grimm.
Paul Walker.
He would have worked.
That would have been awesome.
Would have been totally.
Not sure about John C. Reilly as the thing.
Really? I think that works for me.
Too comedic.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he can play serious when he needs to, but I agree.
What's the last thing he's been in?
He did that like Sherlock Holmes movie with Will Ferrell. He does a lot of theater now and stuff like that actually, which is funny.
Yeah, I know.
You've seen Walk Hard, right?
No.
Oh my God, Gooch. Walk Hard. It's like a mockumentary, kind of making fun of basically all mockumentaries, and he's like a Johnny Cash type character. It's one of the funniest films ever.
Is it older?
Yeah, somewhat. Like 2000, I would say like 12 or something like that. Highly recommend that. You've probably seen clips from it, honestly, and haven't even realized it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that. And Jude Law was going to be Dr. Doom in his script too. I think that would have been pretty cool. I would have been for it.
It's funny because I feel like there are some iconic castings in this movie, or at least iconic looks, but Doom definitely isn't one of them.
He's just one of those actors at the time that, like you said, just kind of faded away. And so as far as like what A Hard Day's Night is, that's a Beatles film. And it's basically about them getting ready for a concert and being chased by fans all over the city.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I did a project regarding that movie in college.
Yeah.
I had to, so this is some Gooch lore. So we were doing, you know what Foley is?
No, I don't.
Foley is where you're kind of replacing sound or creating sound or replacing sound to make it sound like goofy or something like that. Right. So like when they're doing like, when there's like a horse clopping in a movie,
right?
Like they probably dub it over with some not
the person in like the sound booth. I've seen that videos of the guys like clopping.
That's Foley.
Yeah.
So we had to do a project where we replaced all the audio with something else, and we had to do it to that. And I actually was like going through some of my drives recently, and I saw like all my college projects and some things I totally forgot about.
It's crazy.
Holy shit.
But yeah, so would like the idea would have been they would have been like this famous group that's just being hassled by fans.
I mean, that's kind of, you know, I think that's like a theme
elements still in
of
this,
the movie.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
So the scene. Oh yeah, I already said this. All right. I don't know if you noticed this, Gooch, but I fucking sure did. It's another Superman Returns. Jessica Alba wore blue contacts to match her comic counterparts' look throughout the film.
I didn't.
Yeah, she's wearing like bright blue contacts for a lot of the scenes, and I was
not
like,
notice that.
Distracting me a lot. Wasn't as bad as Brandon Routh's. Brandon Routh's was like so fake looking to me. So last one here for you. Goddamn fucking Google Docs. Doom was originally going to be disfigured in a Latverian experiment gone wrong, mixing science with dark mysticism. However, this was changed for the CEO angle because it felt more, quote, relatable to the producer.
What's relatable about being a CEO?
I think it's more that it's like it's more realistic. Again, that's the thing of the time. They're like, we can't do magic and fantasy. It has to be grounded in reality.
Even like I'm trying to think of like the magical superheroes we got back in the day. Like Ghost Rider would almost be like the only example, but like not really magical. Even though in the comics and in the lore it very much is, but it's not really in the movie. It
is, but it's toned down. So you're right. It's like it's reined in so much. No, you're right. I mean, you see demons and stuff like that, and obviously the devil's in it. I mean, that's still a movie I cannot believe was made at the time. Genuinely, like it just seems like a character that they would have never tackled, especially in like 2007.
Yeah,
or whenever it was.
Again, another set of Marvel movies. Like
I'd love to go back and do those sometime.
Right. We just need the excuse.
Definitely,
we don't really need it, but
and those are easy ones where like that's just 2. Like we could kind of like bag those if we really wanted to at some point and just put them out.
I wonder, I wonder if they're gonna like if we're gonna see Ghost Rider in whatever Midnight Suns project or Blade or something like that. Like he doesn't.
There's a rumor about his casting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true. We'll see. I mean...
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, I still... Even though we've had a lot of Magic stuff, it doesn't seem like Magic has its place right now in the MCU. There was an era where, like, the Magic just started coming in. And I think now we're just at this multiversal level. And it's just, like, Magic is sort of...
See,
what's Doom going to be? You know, I think
he's going to be Magic. I genuinely... So, I disagree a tiny bit because I think... Because Thor was back when it was, like... Magic is just science you don't understand. Yeah, and even like when you got to Doctor Strange, he was using a lot of firecracker kung fu. But now...
But it was magic.
But now I feel like they've very much more fully leaned into the magical aspects, especially with like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Wanda and her being like truly a witch. So I think we are leading toward Doom being the... I think they're going to go full on Doom from the comics. He is going to be the Latvian
I find
king.
that hard to believe because he's a variant of Tony Stark.
See, and they have to answer, like, I don't know. So, like, that's the thing. Like, because he looks like him, he's a variant of Tony Stark? Or just did Doom happen to, like, did the genes happen to line up that Tony Stark, or that this Doom just looks like Tony Stark?
And is this Doom from...
So there's a whole other questions about... That's a whole other layer. You're right. But I do think he is going to be magically fueled.
Right, but is he from this First Steps universe? I would say no.
I'm going to... I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm going to assume yes.
Okay.
Or it's going to be a wholly and totally different world.
Yes.
Where Doom is just ruled from the beginning. You know, there's some stuff you can probably glean from the concept arts that have leaked for Doom, for Doomsday, which I won't get into at all. But I do think they're going with the magical, fantastical, medieval-ish, like medieval techno future style that, like, I don't know, we've kind of grown accustomed to with Thor to a degree, but leaning more into the magic.
I do like how these We Rind reviews, especially like what has been done in the past, is sort of like, hey, like let's examine like what we've done with Doom, and then like what are we gonna do with Doom, and same with like with the next movie with Galactus.
Right.
Like we've only seen Galactus and the Silver Surfer one time,
and we really didn't even see Galactus.
I mean, Doug Jones as a Silver Surfer probably holds up very well.
For sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing that performance, and then kind of looking at like, okay, we're getting a female version of the Silver Surfer. Like, how are they going to be different? How are they going to be the same? Like, you know, it is kind of cool where like even with Spider-Man, they do a lot of different villains. Like the Raimi verse doesn't do Vulture, so we don't really have a comparison. But with this, besides the Fantastic Four themselves, like we have a lot of comparison to go off of what we had before.
Well, and I did see an interview with Feige where he's like, and I appreciate this, that they are much more willing to lean into the very fantastical elements that you wouldn't necessarily lean into at this time when you're making this.
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah,
see Giganto or whatever, that big green like monster.
Yeah.
Like there are just certain elements that I think, you know, even with Superman,
that part seemed odd. Seeing that, I'm like, what are we doing here?
What with
Giganto?
Well, I think that's just a villain of the. It's one of the villains of the week that they've taken down.
Like, is that what they're doing?
They seem to be
like a CW show, kind of.
Well, and I don't think they're going to show that. I think it's more just to be world building of like they've been around for a while. They've been doing this. They are Earth's Avengers at this point. I'm going to assume in the Fantastic Four.
Do you think Do you think we're going to have a lot of time jumping?
No, I think you will see like things, their exploits. Like there's that moment when they get interviewed. It seems that they're getting set up. They're going to be on that show where they're like, "Welcome, the Fantastic Four." They're going to be like, "Remember when they saved us from this?" And who could forget when they took care of Giganto? Like I do think there's going to be a bit of a montage in that way to show how they've gotten to where they've gotten and what's been happening. But yeah, I think they're just more willing to lean into a gigantic man in a silly costume walking on the earth and eating it.
Do you have any more fun facts?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it's going to be interesting to see what First Steps does with their family aspect.
Right.
Their family seems so perfect.
Right.
You know,
well, it seems so together.
We get together at Sunday at 7 every time.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like very unreal.
Well, and
like,
this was
I
like
know that is real, but like there's a perfection. There's a late 1900s perfectionism to it.
Like a 1960s, 70s. Yeah.
Like
the nuclear family.
If we're gonna do the Fantastic Four right, there's gonna be a lot of infighting
for sure. And I think they are going to be a family, and that comes along with all the struggles familial struggles bring. And I think they're going to lead into the fact like no, they're all together. They're having they're bringing in Reed and Sue's son, which I think is another very interesting element. I like to
Nathaniel, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And I just can appreciate, and even the same thing with the DC side, a willingness to lean into the truly fantastical and interesting elements that just have never been touched. And I saw a really fun interview, or a good interview with David Goyer, and he was talking about Superman. And he was like, yeah, he's bringing Krypto. He's like, I loved it. I love the trailer. He's bringing in elements that just, at the time,
one.
yeah.
Why was he being interviewed about that?
I can't remember. He was being interviewed about something else, and they asked him about Superman.
Yeah, because of Man of Steel.
Yeah, and he was like, I love it. They're bringing in elements that just, at the time, I would have never thought to bring into because that's just how it was at the time.
Right,
you weren't going to bring Krypto in. You know what I mean? Or something as seemingly silly as that. And even like Giganto and Fantastic Four, or giving them these garish, silly, bright blue costumes. I fucking love it. And I hope that continues to trend that way. But this was not that time. We're gonna give you a dark navy blue Fantastic Four suit, which actually we'll give them credit. Looks great for the time, but other than that, everything's gonna look a little weird and kind of silly. Oh, I took a picture of the one graphic, Gooch, when it's like Ben Grimm and it has him in like the hologram, and he has the dumbest face ever. And also, it's just
from which movie?
It's from I gotta show you it after this, but. The graphic is as 2000s as you can get. It's just so emblematic of like, this is tech and future of the time. I don't know. It's just so funny to me.
Well, if you've been watching live, thank you for watching at twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. We really appreciate it. You can find this podcast, anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network, and our video version is on youtube.com/Delco Nerd Network. You can follow us everywhere with an @ at Delco Nerds, facebook.com/Delco Nerd Network, but most importantly, our Discord community, which there's a link to at the description of every podcast. We're talking about Fantastic Four, Superman, Death Stranding 2, just to name it a few things, but we also like to get into IRL and, some non-nerdier things.
Absolutely.
We any conversation is good conversation. Yeah. You can find all this information on our website, DelcoNerdNetwork.com, and also our Gmail is there, DelcoNerds@gmail.com, which you can email us your thoughts, concerns, things for the good of the group. We'd love to hear from you. My name is Anthony Ragucci. That's Chris Trio. See you next time. We'll stay nerdy. I was looking for a Fantastic Four like outro, but it didn't come. So
here's the thing, Gooch.
See ya.